Hi everyone, welcome to our latest podcast of the Bowlers Union. The episode is all about finding a way when you feel shit. I don't know why I've got rid of it, the writing on the banner of it saying it, and I've just said it there, so that's bad. But how are you going, Keith? You doing all right today?
Yeah, good mate, good. Obviously coming off the conversation of what we had the other day, talking about feeling shit, and me playing Edgbaston and that first and second spell not feeling great at all. I'd like to hear what your thoughts are on it, because I know we've played a lot of cricket and we definitely gone through sessions, days, weeks of feeling crap. Have you found it, and what you've done to try and get through it?
Oh well, yeah, jumping straight in. I mean, there's a few different types, isn't there? So we obviously talked a little bit before the show. Amongst other things, we talked about Greta Thunberg and conspiracy theories and sinkholes, all this sort of stuff. There's a difference between feeling bad on the day and feeling bad for a period of time. So we're gonna sort of try and chop the episode up into two bits. So if you're feeling bad on the day and you need to get through a day, my number one thing would be make sure first and foremost you are competing with the batter and not inwardly competing with yourself. I don't think that's necessarily true for everyone. Some people are able to be internal, think technical a bit. I think you're quite good at that.
Yeah.
But for most people, my number one bit of advice on how to find a way when you feel bad would be compete with the batter and get through that over or spell, and then you can reassess from there. That would be my number one thing, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would say as well, just for those who are listening, feeling shit or crap, whatever you want to call it, is not feeling sore. If you feel if you think being sore is feeling crap or not feeling great, you need to get used to that, because that is bowling. That is what bowling is. If you end up bowling long spells or you end up playing first class cricket, whatever it is. So get used to it. That's not feeling crap or feeling sore or feeling shit. Yeah, so going back to the game against Edgbaston, I did feel really bad within myself, running in too quick, maybe bounding too far, bowling a lot of no balls the week before, and everything felt good until the second ball of the innings, and no ball straight away in my head. Oh dear, oh no, do not need this. So I ended up battling with myself of trying to make sure I'm behind that line, and it got to the stage where I had to trust myself that I wasn't going to bowl a no ball and just try and bowl good lines and lengths. But I found that my lines and lengths weren't what I wanted. So I do think technically at times, I know things weren't really going to plan. Front arm maybe not working as well or pulling the way I wanted to. But then it became a case of, you know what, I've got to compete. I'm bowling against someone here who's looking for me to bowl bad balls. And the more I'm thinking about within, the less output there is and the more chance that they're going to get runs off me. So I then turn to this kind of just compete, hustle and bustle, get it down there and try and challenge the batsman the best way I could. And also put on a bit of a poker face that everything's fine. Obviously, within it's not, but I want it to be seen as though I'm fine and everything's going as planned.
Yeah, so this is a really good point. I don't want to deviate too much. So there's this kind of, I don't want to say it's a modern thing of I'm trying to work out exactly how to say this, but I agree. Basically, I agree what you're saying. You fake it till you make it. So no one should know you feel bad. This is in a performance context. I'm not talking about off-field issues, anything like that. This is on-field. You need to fake it till you make it, because if you show any signs externally that you're not, I think frankly you become a target, don't you, for any batter, or you should do at least.
Yeah.
If the batter senses that you're angry with yourself and all that sort of stuff, then if they're in tune with what's going on, will apply even more pressure onto you. So you've got to carry yourself well, and yeah, first and foremost, compete. Again, there's a lot can be achieved by just running in and trying to hit the stickers and the top of the stumps as hard as you can, even if the ball's moving or not.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry there, mate. I got distracted. I thought my sofa had arrived then.
Oh, have you got a sofa arriving today?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Sorry?
That's amazing. That's gonna be that's a nice delivery, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's not like the food shop. Food shops
No.
are pretty far away, man.
So I want to ask you, so when have you ever gone into games where you are feeling bad before the start of play?
So is in out of form. Is that kind of
Yes.
what you mean?
Yeah.
Being honest, yeah, quite a lot of my career before the age of 24. You know what I mean? When you haven't got that bank of experience,
Yeah.
quite a lot of the time you don't feel tip top, and I feel like you come in and out of form or feeling good, and you don't really know why. Um, the So the answer is yes. And again, if you start, I mean, personally, again, for me, the moment I started thinking technical in game, that became a bit of an issue because if this is my view again, if you
Yeah.
chop and change things, then you're only increasing variables. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know what the best analogy would be, but if you were trying to find out the result of something and you were doing a science experiment, you'd only change one variable at a time. So if in a spell I found like I wasn't hitting my line, the ball in the line I wanted, and I started thinking, oh, I'm gonna get really tight and I'm gonna try and be a bit more round arm, for example, or if I'm gonna come more mid crease, but I'm gonna try and make sure I use my front side more. Any of these things, I think, yeah, you're basically just adding different variables in there to make it that little bit harder. That's kind of my view. I would rather get through a spell, hope even get through an over and reassess. I think, yeah, doing things on the fly I think can be very difficult unless like yourself, you're really in tune with what's going on.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. On the other side, for myself, because obviously I worked like a full winter of changing my action, it was kind of ingrained in me of what my action felt like and looked like. And that's where I was able to know when something wasn't quite right. And it would almost be like that one little bit is out of place. Let me fix that and things will be back to normal. So that's how I saw it. But like you say, everyone's different. Everyone works a different way. But there were times when that didn't work and I didn't know what was going on. So I would have to resort to just getting it down there and try and be as strong as possible at the crease to give myself the best chance. One thing I would say, and this took me a while to figure out, but just through playing a lot, if I was trying to swing the ball, and let's say I was swinging it, but my lines were off, quite consistently off,
Yeah.
I would then just opt for whatever ball was giving me the best chance of bowling a good ball. So if it was an in swinger to a left-hander, let's say that was coming out better than an away swinger, I would opt for that because I felt more accurate in actually hitting my line and length and trying to adjust the field to suit that kind of bowling, rather than fighting against myself to try and get the right lines and length, swinging it away from a left-hander and just being all over the place and then feeling down and low that I actually can't bowl the ball that I'm trying to successfully.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. We've talked about this on the podcast in other ways, but we talked about Mohammed Abbas, how he doesn't fight the conditions and things, and that's doubly important here. Like you say, there will tend to be a ball that's working better for you than others, and if you're not feeling good, you should almost certainly go to that for the majority of the time. What I would say is, I mean, there is a bit of self-awareness that's required, but there are often kind of cues. So a typical one for me might be, let's say my line or something, or let's say movement. Let's say I wasn't moving the ball as much as I wanted.
Yeah.
Well, immediately in my eyes, there you look at the ball. I look at the ball and I see where, and you can see, especially as a new ball bowler, which a lot of people who are listening to this will be, I'd have thought. Look at the ball. Where are you landing it? If you are you undercutting it? kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Or are you are you perfectly on the seam? Because if you're perfectly on the seam, and I've definitely had this issue, sometimes it might not be you. Do you know what I mean? It might just be like we had a chat with Aaron Briggs, didn't we? The aerodynamicist. And sometimes conditions won't be right for swing. So you might think, oh, hey, I'm nailing the seam here. Why isn't it swinging? And you might start thinking, oh, I've got to get more side on or anything like that. It's like, in that case, maybe don't try and swing it. It's clearly not that swingy a day. Maybe like you then go, okay, you know what? It's not swinging. I'm hitting the seam. I feel like I'm doing things right. And you go to wobble seam for a bit and you see what outcomes you get there.
Yeah. I'd agree with that. I think when you get to a point where you are fighting against all the conditions that are there, you never come out on top. You have to figure out a way. And the last thing that people sometimes go to is, let me just try and get it down there. And I think that needs to be more of a priority, of just get it down there and compete with that batsman more than anything else. Don't worry if it's not swinging. Don't worry if it's not nipping. A straight ball can still get a batsman out. Who's to say that batsman is in good form? Nothing. They could be battling with a few demons batters have anyway. So, even though you can be struggling yourself, the batsman you're bowling at could be struggling with the angle you're coming from, not what you're doing with the ball, just the angle that you're bowling, which could be more than enough to get them out. And, when you're not feeling great, it only takes 1 or 2 wickets. And all of a sudden, you feel like you're amazing. Like you're running more, you're strong at the crease. You start doing the things that you were trying to do, but you've just had a bit of an adrenaline jump, and things start to click.
Well, you made a really good point again there. Is when you're bowling well, what are you doing? You're hitting the crease hard. You feel strong at the crease. Your wrists behind the ball. They are all like fundamental basics. There's no guarantee that you're going to have those on every given day. However, if you know that's how you feel when you bowl well, for me, that's quite a good priority. In terms of cues, there's a couple that I think are perfect. Hit the deck. No, we've talked about this. You say compete a lot, don't you? Make sure you bowl the ball is one of your big ones. But yeah, I like hit the deck, and I mean quite often I just tell myself to run in, and that's not like sprinting. When I say run in, I mean run in athletically. Do you know what I mean? Run in strong with intent. I'm not saying sprinting like Shoaib Akhtar. I tend to find when people struggle, more often than not, their run-up speed decreases and they get a bit tense and they slow up. So I don't know. Maybe I'm pretty sure I've said this to a few people when I've been at mid-off. Is literally that. Keep running in, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if your experience of that's the same, because you said this game you felt like you were running too hard, didn't you?
Well, no, I felt like I was. I felt like it. Not that I was, but it's just what I felt at the time, because sometimes when I'm not playing for a while, you feel a bit fresher. You feel like loose. I'm used to bowling and feeling stiff. So when you're playing for a while and you're a bit loose, you're like, oh, yeah, this is brilliant, steaming, bound. And then you realize you're bounding a bit more. That's when all of a sudden, no ball here or whatever. So I then just thought, let me slow it down a bit, try and pick my knees up, because that's sometimes picking my knees up gets me a little bit more athletic, rather than just trying to run forward, pick my knees up, get myself up, bound up, stay a bit taller, give myself time at the crease to get my action right, and that normally seems to work. So that's why I just slowed down. But I really remembered thinking, this probably looks a bit obvious that I'm struggling. Spoke to the bowling coach at lunch, and he said, I can see you're off it a little bit, which is expected. You haven't played for a few weeks, but it'll come back to you. Just trust it. And halfway through my second spell, it started to come back a bit, and I started just running again as I would do, and everything was fine. But when you are in that bad place, one thing I really try and do, I think I said earlier, is massive poker face. I am trying to not make it look as though anything is wrong with me at all, because I don't want the batsman to have that little bit of info to kind of maybe think I could get on top of him because he's struggling. If I get after him, that ball that's slightly off, there's pressure on Barks. I don't want people thinking that. I don't want my team knowing that. So I'm trying to do everything I can. I want to look the same, give the same reactions of a play and miss. It could be a wide one that I bowled and they've gone to flash at it, they've missed it, and kind of do what I would do if I bowled a good ball, stand there, look at the batsman a little bit, shake my head and walk back. And I'm thinking, please don't bowl another one there. Like, just get through it. But you've got to make it seem, you've got to put on a bit of a front, bit of a show that everything's going as you want it to.
I think, you know what? I think the best two bowlers that spring to mind for me that at doing that are Shane Warne, was always competing, body language tended to be awesome. And he is a human being. So I think we can all agree on the podcast here, he wouldn't have felt great every single spell he bowled. There were the spells where he internally would have been back. But yeah, he always carried himself brilliantly and put pressure on the batsman. Everything he made, even if it wasn't, he would have made the batter think, "I've done that deliberately." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was a slide. That was a slide. It wasn't like my leggy that just didn't turn.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The other one, I think Stuart Broad does a really good job of it. He's always like, "Oh," kind of thing. I think he's quite a good actor. The other thing, but again, following off what you said there, is the whole kind of fake it till we make it and giving off this really, I say confident, competitive vibe is a lot of these issues you have to bowl yourself through.
Yeah.
That's both the best thing about bowling and the worst. Compared to batting, you get a good ball, you're out. You will have to bowl spells when you feel average. That's a fact. You have to fake it till you make it because you need the opportunity to bowl those spells. So if your captain, for example, senses that you're off it, you get taken off. Yeah. And you can't actually then work through the problem. So I think the whole point is, like you're saying, you don't know what the batter's thinking, for one. Like, any batter can get to any ball. They don't know that you feel internally that you're not quite hitting your straps or whatever. So, and like you say, the captain's a big one. You've got to kind of keep them on side, and you can do that with a bit of, I don't say bravado, because I'm not, you know what I mean? I don't mean like strutting around, but look competitive, run in and be positive. I think body language, that would be my following on from you there.
No, I'd agree. I even still going back to the last game I played, I said to Abo, I said, should I go in swinger or away swinger? And he went away swinger. So I turned the ball around, top of my mark, shined it up, set off running, and the breeze just changed direction.
Okay.
So as I'm running into ball, I thought I'm going to go an in swinger, try and swing it back to Danny Briggs. And I did it the night before or the day before or an innings before. Almost got him out. Really good in swinger. Started like fifth stump, swung back. I think he may have looked to played it, but like maybe a flash through the offside, then swung back and he dug it out. So I thought, as I'm running in now, a few days later, wind's changed, going the wrong way. So right, I'll swing it back into him. I bounded, thought, right, just that fifth stump, let it go. It landed halfway down, wide cut ball, nicked it. Lucky. But I wasn't feeling great still at that moment in time, but I thought, let me try this, and it came out wrong. I got a wicket. Next, because you got a wicket, everything's fine. I'm feeling better again, and that kept me going. And that's sometimes what you need. You've got to go, like say, go through those tough spells. Almost, you want, as bad as it sounds, you want to keep bowling through those bad times. Like you say, just to get out of it, get out the other side, to finish. You might finish your last 2 overs of where you come out the other side of it, and actually start, the penny's dropped and you feel better. But if you've gone through all that crap and you come out on the other side of it, you then know, right, this is what worked for me this time. If I go through that again, I have an idea of what I can do to correct it. But as soon as you get dragged off by the captain, like you say, you might not bowl again the next rest of that game, or it comes to another game and the captain bowls you, but then you start off a similar way to you did the game before, and the captain flings you off very early. All of a sudden now you're being seen as a bowler that the captain doesn't trust. And before you know it, you might not be picked if you're not able to get the overs into perform as well as you want.
No, 100%. 100%. Actually, interestingly, when I left, or when I got sacked at Etty, that's what it is. So obviously Warwickshire and Gloucestershire were interested in me playing for them. So I had a chat with John Bracewell at Gloucestershire. Now he said that their attack at the time had John Lewis and Steve Kirby wrote the bowling, but they had a philosophy that they would only ever bowl 5 over spells. All their bowlers bowl 5 over spells, with the view to making everybody a little kind of what we're saying. Everybody always knows they're going to bowl. They feel part of it, and they can they're not going to over rely on those two guys. They're going to be a complete attack, if you know what I mean. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It makes sense, but I'm not surprised they didn't win much.
yeah. All the bowlers felt great. They won nothing.
Everyone just. But yeah, I understand the concept, but I'm not sure I'd be agreeing to that if I was in charge of that team. I'd be like, no, my best bowlers are going to bowl more, but the bar is for you younger lads or inexperienced lads to get to their level. So then that's your role when you get a bit older. Not, we're all friends here. You bowl the same. Nah, no thanks.
Well, Pop actually. So Graham Mulch, obviously your bowling coach still, asking me. I remember him. He had to have a chat with the captain at Essex once, because I promise you, and I get why, but he basically bowled Dave Masters and Danish Canarian all the time. That's it. He just bowled them. So genuinely, there are a few bowlers like myself and that, and don't get me wrong, we weren't setting the world alight at that point at all. But Pop was like, they're never going to get where you want to get them if they're not exposed to it and they don't bowl more. And it ended up Hoddy, Dave Masters. He had a bad neck. He bowled so much his neck was like, honestly. So yeah, interesting. But again, bowling is the only way you're going to kind of not iron it out, because you just have to work through, don't you? That's the point. That's the point.
Yeah, it's almost like running with a stitch. You just got to run through it. It hurts. You've got to just keep going.
Yeah, and it goes, right? Somehow it goes.
It does go, but it's there. It feels like it's there forever, but eventually it goes and you can crack on. What about then when? Okay, I've had this only once that really springs to mind, but I want to see your thoughts on when it's been going on for a few weeks.
Oh, yeah. Okay. This is a quite interesting. And the few things that I've thought of are, I think that you need to have someone who you can talk to that isn't involved with team selection. So, because you don't want to certainly at our level, and you know what, any level, right? Let's say you're playing club first team, and you're not bowling very well. But you want to stay in the first team, right? You want to be playing. You want to be playing at the highest level you can. You can't go to the head coach, for example. Say you feel bad. You feel like you're not quite. The ball's not quite going where you want it. You can't say that to the head coach. Absolutely not.
No.
Potentially, you can't even say it to your bowling coach. That's a sobering thought, because obviously a selection panel tends to be head coach, bowling coach, batting coach, captain, right? So you probably need someone outside of that circle that you can chat bowling with, bowling philosophy with. I think that's massive. So like you and I always have each other, which is helpful. And luckily we're obviously both really sensible, and know the craft. But if you need to find, I think you need to find someone like that in your circle or whatever, and use it definitely, because some problems yeah, you need to be discreet, I think.
No, I'd agree. Yeah, I think you don't want it ever. You don't even want to say it to someone that is close-ish to the captain or head coach, because that will get back. So then you are in trouble. Even though you're trying to do it for the right reasons, it can then affect you down the line. So yeah, I mean, I had it once. I remember this clear because I've never felt so small in my performance. I couldn't get the ball to swing back, and I kept getting. This was at Warwickshire. A few games we played, I was struggling. I didn't know what was wrong. I knew it was something technical, but I didn't have a clue. All I knew is that I couldn't get the ball to swing. It was really just pushing across the right-handers. And if it did swing, it was down leg, back of a length. And tell you, you don't want to bowl to when you're bowling it halfway down and over leg stump to a short boundaries, Ricky Bessels and Alex Hales. And
yeah.
and this was a red ball game as well, but they didn't matter.
Was I at the club then?
Yeah. And it was, I don't know what Hale. I remember Hale's got a lot, and Vessels came in later on, but we got to the second new ball, and my first over, I think I got hit for 2 sixes towards the Eric Holly stand, but like kind of behind the towards the city end, and that ball came back an absolute mess, and I was struggling. I remember. Sat down with Alan Richardson after the game because I'd felt there was something wrong and I didn't go to anyone. And we sat down, looked, and it was all within my bound, my gather, that, and this was because of playing white ball cricket and then coming back to red ball cricket. As I bound, my bowling arm normally would be quite close. I bound and almost be quite close to my cheek. My dad always used to say to me, when you bound, you almost want to be kissing the ball. Keep your arm tucked in, right? Elbow tucked in, right? And from white ball cricket, I always, because I slung it down there, I'd always have my arm open, my palm open, just to hoss it down there with a lot of shoulder strength, right? But that crept into my red ball cricket. So I was getting quite open shoulder, open elbow, open wrist, and I couldn't swing it back. And when I did, it was all the way down the leg stump. So I then had, I think there was no game for about 2 weeks, and technically I just had to work on that. But I did feel like a lost bowler. I didn't know, before that I didn't have a clue what to do, and I was trying to fight through it, but I didn't have the same confidence to fight through it as what I do now, because I hadn't really gone through it properly. So sorry about that. I hadn't really gone through that rough patch of just getting on with it and dealing with it. Whereas when it comes to like now, I can have that rough phase and know that I've been through it, I've bowled through it, and I've got through it, and I know what to do from there. And that is, for me, just you're battling, just compete with that batsman.
So who spotted the issue, Richo?
Yes, yeah, kind of. We I think we both sat down, and he did note that he felt as though my arm was opening up. And then when I looked back at the other games before that in red ball cricket, I was tucked in quite nice and tidy. And that's something that I always try and remain the same, is my elbow and my wrist locking and facing forwards rather than opening up.
I like that. And now when you're doing that on the camera, I really picture you being like that.
Being bang here, I'm there. What if I get to here? Trouble. Unless I've got a white ball in my hand, then yeah.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So okay, there you go. So that's an example of having a bowling coach that's good.
Yeah,
that can see stuff. There's not everyone can see things like that either. To be fair, that's good from him. So you've got a bowling coach that you trust. I still think you need. I think you need also that colleague who you can kind of open up to.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there are any other longer term. Oh, okay. Do you want me to go?
Well, I've just got another one.
Yeah, come on.
And this isn't where you feel crap, but this can make you feel a bit shit. Basically, is when you are bowling, and this is probably more white ball, but where your teammates don't agree with your plan, because that's like they don't back you, and you're then having to battle of, do I listen to what they're saying, which I know is wrong from what I'm trying to do, or do I show them and try and get it right for them to understand? Because I feel like if you lose trust in your teammates, that can make you feel pretty crap, because they don't know what you should do.
Yeah, that's that's a tricky dynamic, that, because again, you all want to. In fact, I'm pretty sure on the latest series of the Test, I don't know if you've watched it, but even at Test level, you get issues like that. So in the Test, I think there was a game at Old Trafford where England was smashing it everywhere, and basically Pat Cummins came off and was like, we all need to be on board with the same plan, at least for like 20 minutes or half an hour. So like a lot of the Aussies were like looking around at each other, like not agreeing. Hazelwood, Cummins, Stark, or whatever were kind of travelling a bit. And clearly half the team thought the plans were rubbish. The people bowling the ball were obviously thought they weren't. England got a load of runs.
Yeah.
And it obviously caused friction. So you don't want that at all. It can happen. It should happen less with the analytical side that we obviously now get. You know what I mean? We all have analysts, don't we?
Yeah.
So you'd like to think, actually, you know what? Actually, I'll throw it out there. That's who you should blame. So if ever your teammates kind of, you could just be like, well, this is the this is the analyst's plan, kind of thing.
Yeah, true. I mean, I've had two incidences where, and this was a red ball game and a white ball game actually. You know, when I was bowling a death at left-handers, I would bowl Yorker or almost hip length to a long side leg-sided boundary, and have 5 men out on the leg side. And if you hit me for 6, fair enough. But I'm banking you don't get it past those 5. And Will Porterfield came to me. We played Somerset, I think, in the T20 game. And end of that game, he said to me, I feel pretty pointless at deep backward square. I don't feel in the game. Now, for me, my plan is I can bowl a Yorker at your feet into hip length for you to try and hit. I can even bowl slot and get it wrong and bowl slot. As long as it's angled towards the leg side, you've got to beat 5 men. Somewhere you've got to beat someone anyway. Or I can bowl a bouncer. So I've got 3 or 4 options to go to there. I'm not trying to aim at the stumps because I've got 4 in the ring on the offside, but it's clearly obvious what I'm trying to do. And he said, I don't feel in the game at deep backward square. And I was like, I thought to myself, well, I know what I'm trying to do. Fine. I disagree with him. I get my reasons as to why he felt differently. So then we ended up being in nets at Edgbaston, and we were training on the square towards the groundsman's hut. So it's pretty short leg side. And I bowling towards the end of the session at him, and I've bowled a bouncer, and he's picked it up quite nicely about 10 rows back into the stand. But obviously it's the short side, and people are like, shot, Purds, shot. And I just looked at him and went, you do realise you've caught yourself out there, don't you? Just to kind of get him to realise that is why that person, he would be there. It is to try and get a catch. It's there to stop runs and potentially get a catch. And then there was a time against when Hamid would have been at Lancs at the time, where I'd realised very early on coming over the wicket to him was a no-no. It was like what it felt like was like bowling at Sam Robson. Is that he just played me so easy. He lined up really well. So I came round the wicket because I felt as though he could push it, the off-stump ball more. And I think it was Amby, Tim Ambrose, Ian Bell, Trott, and maybe Clarkey saying that I should come over the wicket because they don't feel as though I'm going to be threatening from round. And then, lo and behold, nicked him off from round the wicket, dropped at slip. Then, obviously, I followed up with a few words of it. Not just being concentrated on trying to catch the ball and tell me what, blah, blah, blah. I feel in that stage where I was doubted a little bit on my decision. I felt as though I wasn't valued to know what I'm doing with the ball and the confidence to people having the confidence in me to do what I was doing well. But then I felt like I've got to try and show them and prove them wrong. And I felt as though I got through that. And I think that's where if people do doubt you, you've got to make sure you 100% believe in what you're doing and back yourself to do it. Because if not, then you can start to feel crap because you don't feel as though the team rate you as highly.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, that's a really tough one when you feel like you're getting pulled around in terms of planning because, well, yeah, exactly that. It's not easy when you get two different opinions because obviously someone's always going to be annoyed. I'll tell you an episode that people should listen to for more on that is the Chris Wood one we did at the start because in terms of a plan, if you just take a step back and look at it on a basic level, like you say there, what line you're looking to bowl, what side is the bigger side? Kind of, yeah, that's enough. Does the wicket support slower balls and that into the pitch, or does it favour Yorkers? And you can very obviously see if your default plan is any good. So it's almost like that. When you feel bad or you feel conflicted or whatever, can you just take yourself just back for a second and go, hang on a minute, like in the case you just mentioned, it's a massive boundary that side. It suits my skill set. The pitch is, what's the word I'm looking for? Offering assistance to cutters and slower balls. Well, actually, you know what? Yeah, I do need that. I do need that fielder there. Simple.
Yeah. And I've been on the other side of it where me and Jim Troughton said the same to Ricky Clark about a delivery that he should have been trying to bowl to, I think it was Nurse against Bot we played. After Nurse had just dispatched Nakash to here, I think that ball's still going now. He hit it that big. We were so worried about Nurse. We didn't back Clarkey to bowl his back and then slowly. We was like, you've got to go Yorker, And he listened to us, and Ricky give us a good old spray afterwards because it didn't go to plan. Him trying to go Yorkers. Nurse got hold of him as well. Clarkey then felt rubbish because we didn't back him to do what he was best at. And yeah, it's not good if you're feeling that way.
Yeah, and you can flip this round, can't you, to batting as well. So you'll get players that nail a reverse sweep, play it really well, practice it. Well, every now and again they're going to get out playing, but if the team knows that's their shot. It's like you, right? If you got out reverse sweeping, because people know you play it a lot, people will support you in it. So I have sometimes I get conflict when it comes to like what line to bowl, and part of it's my stubbornness, but I'm kind of the view that you never want to bowl too straight. So I hate it when people bowl in swing or angle it in with a 5-4 leg side. Because my theory, and I'll die on this hill, is that batters make the error by trying to access the offside. So even though you want to be straight, if you can find that perfect sweet spot where they think extra cover or mid off is available, and you then swing it in or angle it in from there, that's actually how you get your wickets.
Yeah.
Not if you're aiming at middle and you pack the leg side. I think that corrects batsman actually almost is their cue to go, actually, I'm going to keep my left leg out of the way and hit straight. I want them hitting that way. So I've had quite a few all through my career there of teammates going, do you not think we should lose the slip and have an extra man catching me wicket? And I'm kind of like, yeah, not for me. That tends to be the one I am.
I can see your point. You're kind of giving away your plan. You're giving away the way you're trying to get them out. And funny enough, we have it with spin sometimes when my rough is, and I don't know why this is, I'm probably going off what we used to have Jeet and Patel. We would leave cover open for Jeets. We would be encouraging batsmen to go on, open your bat face towards cover. Love to see you do that because through the rough, hit the rough through the gate. Whereas I don't know why it is, but we seem to have, I'll be at mid off and they want me quite wide. And well, you're encouraging the batsman to hit the ball straighter towards mid off rather than opening that bat face up towards cover. Like, surely you want me straighter and say, go on. If I hit the rough as a spinner and you try and hit through that offside, through that cover spot, there's a chance I'm going to get you out. But if I let you close the face of that bat because you're only having to beat mid off, like kind of wide mid off, you only have to do it straight. You're not going to get the same. I don't know. Maybe they're looking more for a short leg. I don't know.
You're exactly right. That is exactly my thinking. So let's again take let's say a reversing ball. Well, you still get catches first slip, the ones that don't go as much, or if you turn it around, they go straight or away a bit.
Yeah.
So you might be in. You've got fine leg, deep square, catch mid wicket, mid on, mid off, extra cover. I don't know, point, slip, something like that. I'm not saying bowl wide. I'm just saying don't bowl too straight, if that makes sense. Because batsmen still nick it fine.
Yeah.
And you want them going, oh, yeah, there's the gap to extra cover. Exactly that. Hitting the ball, opening up too much. We've gone off on a bit of a tangent there, haven't we? Should we circling back? Because I did think actually we missed this out earlier.
Yeah.
Is on a given day where you don't feel great, quickly assess your field. And is it too attacking potentially, or at least does it support how you feel? Because to be honest, 2 slips and a ring is really solid. So if you don't feel good and you operate with 2 slips and a ring, great. You don't need to be having a field that's 3 slips, short leg. Do you know what I mean? If you feel bad, apply pressure, build pressure by drying the scoreboard. Hopefully you get a wicket, but just kind of you can rein it in if nothing feels.
So I'd say, when it's not feeling great for myself, what I've realised is that I will leak one side more than the other.
Right.
So if I'm bowling to a right-hander and I'm getting 2 straight, I will have a ring field, but have a deep square with a fine leg, because that's generally the way I'm bowling. I'm bowling a bit too straight and I can't get it right. And same for lefties. If I'm bowling too wide to them, I'll have a deep backward point as the example and try and ring it. Maybe a third man as well. You don't need to be too attacking. And I think that field position is quite a safe option, because it doesn't look as though you are struggling too much. You can still bowl a good line and length and look threatening and still have your slips in play. Without it looking just a ring field, no slips, or a third man fine leg. That can look a little bit negative. You always want to look as though you're on the offense with having a slip or 2 in, but you can still protect yourself depending on what side you're bowling.
100%. When I used to bowl first change a lot more, it was a dream. You come on, 2 slips, gully, point, cover, mid off, fine leg, square leg, mid on, like two slips, gully, and a ring. You can't really go wrong. It's the beauty of it. It's different when you open the bowling, granted, because you are going to have more attacking catches in. But first change and behind, play with your square leg a lot. Do you know what I mean? I think that's so underutilized. I found out people are really stubborn actually to do it. I'm like, stick a deep square out, threaten the short ball, and really he's there because you feel rubbish. Do you know what I mean? It's just you're blocking off a bit of the ground.
Yeah.
And you know why I love deep square? Because it just gives you license to, the cue I said earlier, hit the deck.
Yeah.
I think it's the best cue in the world. However, every now and again you will be a bit too short, and the captain will be like, "Oh, you need to be fuller," or you'll be too short. And batsmen get scoring opportunities off the back foot. But if you've got a deep square, it kind of negates that a little bit, gives you that little bit of a buffer.
Yeah,
that's all. I think people can be a bit more flexible in their fields, or apply more common sense. Where that's a time where you don't want to have an ego too much. Do you know what I mean? You don't want to be like, "Nah, I'm not bowling well, but I'm still going to have 3 slips in a gully," because it's not going to go well, frankly.
Yeah, I don't think this happened for a while. It's not happened. I've never seen it, but I have heard it's happened where the captain goes, I'm not changing the field. You've just got to bowl better.
You say that? Who said that? Someone said that.
I've heard that was a player that played at Hampshire. I think he played at Leicester for a bit. I heard that story at one point. I don't know if he was at Leicester. He might have been at Leicester at the time when that was said, but I think he may have done it here at Hampshire as well.
Who's that? Bassett? No, who?
Oh, they were on about I'm not on about the bowler. I'm on about the person who was captaining. Wouldn't change the field.
Oh wow. Well. You know what I would say is there are times, aren't there, that the field is right, and if you change the field too much, a little bit like earlier, I was saying about that's another variable that you change. If you know deep down the field is right, try to bowl through it with it, because you probably only need to make one position. So let for example, square leg to deep square leg, just to buy you a bit of length, for example.
Yeah,
might be enough. But if you start going, you know, a big one I see. Sorry, I'm going off on one here. Captains, they'll say, "Oh, we're a bit both sides," right? So they say we're a bit both sides. The captain is really saying, "I want you to bowl one side and pitch." Okay, but with a relatively new ball, they'll then go to a split field. So neither side is particularly well reinforced. Yeah. Especially with a new ball, a newer ball, when actually the answer is you're probably leaking a bit too straight. Hold your line at off stump, full stump, through to the keeper. We're going to stick with this 2-1 and a ring.
Yeah.
One of them comes out. Typically, it'll be gully. Gully will come over. So it'll be 2 slips and a ring. And then you'll have a younger bowler whose natural ball is an away swinger with a split field. And then they start leaking through third man as well. Where actually gully kind of will stop a lot of that, maybe even provide a wicket-taking opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it over the years where someone is, let's say, could be leaking leg side, and rather than just put that deep square out, just move that one person. They move deep square out, and they've got a mid wicket already, but they'll take second slip out and go, "We'll have 2 catching mid wickets," and lo and behold, the bowler gets it right. Thick edge to second slip, no one's there.
Mate, yes, exactly that. You know what? One thing I see, and I've done this, is quite often I'll have 2 on 1. Right, bearing in mind I'm not a weight swing bowler, so often people always say reinforce the offside, right? Away swing, 2 on 1, point, cover, mid off, mid on, fine leg, square leg. Now, by putting square leg to deep square leg, it actually means I can be a bit greedier with my away swinger.
Yeah.
So, but you'll quite often you'll hear like but there's just an easy one in there. I'm like, well, that might be the case, but what about the cut balls I've been bowling? Do you know what I mean? The deep square means I can move straighter. My whole line, I can move it straighter. I'm not going to go for a 4 on the leg side, and I'm going to remove the cut balls.
Yeah.
Certainly as a younger player anyway. But yeah, people don't get it. They're like, oh, but what about the 1? I'm like, what about the 12 and over I'm going for? What about all these boundaries? It's like, you know what? If I get too straight and they go, knock it for 1, yeah, I don't care about that. But if I feel like I'm too wide, slay me for 4 through backward point.
Yeah, you don't want to end up going for 43 and an over, mate, do you?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it's interesting in hindsight. That would Ollie Robinson actually in that over, he probably did the right thing, you know, because it was the big side. It was everyone was out.
But at some point within myself, I'm thinking I need to get out of this over.
Yeah.
So I would be thinking I'm not gonna let this ball meet you any higher than your ankle by the time it's got to you. That I need to hit you on the foot to just finish this over, and but yeah.
The reason why was because at that stage we were still a long way off of being near their score. Yeah. So it was one of those where it was like, you know what, you got to hit one of these in the air. That was clearly what was going on.
Yeah, but I wouldn't be able. Maybe it's because I'd be conscious of like how many runs I've gone for in that over, but after 4 balls, how many was he on, including the no ball? Oh, how many runs have gone in that over after 4 balls? Because he bowled 2 no balls within those. With it, he bowled 6 balls, but there was still only 4 gone.
Yeah, sure. If you bear with me, I'll find out right now because it is worth looking at. There was a like I said, there were no balls in the over, right? So there is that.
But with officially 4 balls gone, including those no balls within it, but he must have 30 or 30.
It went
2.
What have we got? 6, 6. Oh no, I can't work it out.
You won't be able to look at it.
There was a post. It was yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot. It wasn't 36 off of 6 though. I know that much. I think. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, just because we're on that now, for someone like an Ollie Robinson, that's not going to affect him because he's been that next level. It doesn't matter to him. He'll be fine. Obviously, he'll be fine. He's a great bowler. But if that was a younger lad, you're definitely feeling shit for a long time after that.
Yeah, that was what made it so good though, was because obviously Ollie wouldn't, like you say, he's not affected by it, which is why he had the I say courage, like he had the attitude of go on then mate, keep going.
Yeah,
he just did. Yeah. That was the only thing. Yeah, I wasn't in principle again. Strip it back, and actually, it ticks a lot of the right options. But it was certainly an entertaining phase of play. What I would say is that this is when you're not feeling great, it is definitely the time to realise you are not Jimmy Anderson. I really believe you should be keeping it simple. It's not the time to be trying lots of variations or anything like that. You shouldn't be going in swing, away swing. If anything, default to whatever your best, most natural ball is. Failing that, probably the most logical thing to do to work through is actually wobble seam, because then you take out swing variation altogether and you just bowl a line, let the pitch do the work.
Yeah, I agree. With that, if you do have different deliveries, go with which one is probably coming out best and gives you the best chance of being accurate. If you haven't got a wobble seam, I wouldn't recommend it. But if that ball is swinging either way and you can't control it, you might have to go cross seam, as bad as that sounds, and just try and compete. Use your banter, as we talk about, and try and get through it. Just compete the best you can.
That's actually a really good point that we haven't touched on. But certainly if you're quick enough or your short ball is good enough, you're allowed 2 bounces and over. And you can set your field appropriately. You can always hide 2 high bounces. Then you've only got 4 balls to worry about. Which actually, you know what? I'll be honest. At times, I'm pretty sure we've said that.
Yeah.
When we played on really, really flat ones at Edgbaston, and it's been more about Jeets, and we've kind of been facilitating him and just trying to, apply pressure. 2 bounces and over. That gives you 4 balls to rip in, hit the top of the stumps. Get out your over and let Jeets clip the rough and spin it sideways, that kind of stuff. Anything else that we think we should be offering?
No, mate. No, I think that's it. I think we covered it all, really.
Nice. Okay. Well, look, thanks for listening, everyone. Please like, follow, subscribe, and share it with as many people, bowlers, as you can. Take it easy, everyone.